Hey everybody, I'm Pat Jones. I'm here for my friends at Aquatrols today with another one of my good friends, Mr. Anthony Williams. How hot is it in Dallas, Texas today?
We're going to have a 100-degree day today in Dallas, Texas.
How has that transition to being a Texas been for you, a Texan being for you and your family? It's been 3 years now?
Yeah, going to be 4. So
Yeah.
with 3 and change, it's going great. We love Texas. It's very similar in some ways to Atlanta weather-wise. Just a little hotter in the summer, a little less rain, but we love being in Texas. It's big enough to handle all the crazy things that we generally like to do, and Texas has embraced me and excited. I'm going to be president of the North Texas GCSA chapter in October.
One of the things that I think a lot of people know about you is you sort of have multiple lives, and one of those lives beyond being a professional turf manager and a golf course genius is karate. What's the one lesson from your study and your discipline and your practice of karate that you think all superintendents could get some value from?
Master the basics. Never stop practicing the basics. When you're taught well and you have a good foundation, there's really no limit. But if you neglect the basics, trying to overachieve too much, too fast, and neglect the core, the agronomy, the people management, the be on time, those ordinary skills that you sometimes lose track of. In karate, as soon as you stray from the basics, you get punched in the face. So a very quick reminder. So master the basics.
Do you think that's even more relevant now during the pandemic? Because one of the things right off the bat that smart veteran superintendents were telling me was focus on fundamentals.
Yes, no question. And you have occasionally those moments in your career or in your life that bring that right to the forefront. And day one of pandemic 2020 was. We didn't have the staff, we didn't have a lot of the resources, but we had every bit of the expectation. And so you had to be very fast to make the adjustments. And again, knowing where your core is, knowing what your member, whether you're a private club or a public facility, knowing your customer, knowing what the expectations were going to be, being able to adjust quickly. So when we had you can't take the flag out, but we are going to open, and we weren't going to have T markers, and did you let those things knock you off your game, or did you understand that paint the backs of the canvas first? If you've got good turf grass, you can change mowing heights and other things pretty easily.
What should people know about Palmer maples that they probably don't know? Now, Palmer turned 88 the other day. What can you tell us about Palmer that people ought to know? Because you're somebody that's been president of the GCSA, president of the Carolinas, president of the Georgia Association, and has contributed mightily. That maybe he's a name that most people don't know. Tell us why you think Palmer is important to know about.
Because he makes everything he's around better. If you look at the length of his career and just the things that he's done and the energy he brings to the room, for me, he is the mentor that first identified me as a potential golf superintendent and guided me all of those things. And I will tell you, I wouldn't be where I am, certainly, without Palmer's influence, no question. But he can influence big organizations, but he can get right down one-on-one with you and inspire you. And that's rare. And to do it for as long as he has done it, and the tree of people he's impacted and developed, I tell the story, and it's very true. I was driving to Dallas from Atlanta to take the job for my first day. And I got sleeted in Jackson, Mississippi, and I was having some doubts. Is this the right thing? What am I doing? And Palmer Maples Jr. called me at that exact minute and said, "Is it true? I understand you're going to Texas." And just kind of just gave me some reassurance and gave me all the tools that I would need to go and do well. But he ended it with, now, as an Abraham Baldwin alumni, I want to make sure that you go out there, and I know you're going to do well, but don't embarrass us.
I'm sure you weren't, but were you tempted to show him all of your awards?
No, because I know that Palmer, he gave me another, you've seen my office, so it's got all the stuff out there. Yeah. And Palmer always encouraged me. He said, keep the stuff out, not to remind you of that you may have achieved, but that at one point all that was impossible. Yeah. And that as it becomes real, He said, I should ever walk in your office and not see a recent date on some of those accomplishments. And I should always see an empty spot for the next thing you're pursuing. And to this day, if I walk in the office first thing in the morning and when I leave in the afternoon, I see a space of the empty that I'm chasing, and hopefully some dates of things that have happened recently.
I think you could make a case that reflects not just your commitment to the industry, but your commitment to other people. Which one of those awards, in that sense, in the people sense, which one of those awards is most meaningful to you?
Because of the people sense, I think the 2017 Environmental Leaders in Golf, the one that basically finished the Triple Crown, because it connected all of the places I'd been and all of the people I'd worked with and all of the impossibilities. Because in the beginning, when we first started on that environmental road, my first general manager, all he said was, as long as you're not one nickel over budget, then I don't care what you do. Every award has deep meaning. It does, all of them. But that one, because it connected the early days to the middle years to the trip to Texas, that one meant a lot.
When you and I talked in advance and I said, hey, we're doing turf soon and I work with Aquatrols, you said, oh my gosh, I'd be happy to talk about my relationship with that company through the years. What has a company like Aquatrols meant to you over your years? Particularly, you've been in some of the hottest places in the country to try to grow grass.
Well, huge. I mean, I've had great sales reps and the products and the research, because I've done case studies and things with the Aquatrols. But moisture management in the places that I've worked in the markets I've been in is absolutely critical. We had about a month, about 4 weeks, not even a drop of rain. And then I had 10 inches of rain in 4 days. So that whole revolution, dispatch, keeping the moisture content available, but allowing excessive moisture to flow through the profile of the root zone. Man, you're talking about a silver bullet. It has been one of the anchors to my water management program, which is the core of our environmental program. So honestly, without Aquatrols, there ain't no Triple Crown, and may not even have been a gainful employment even.
How does that play itself out into things like hand watering?
When we did our last Byron Nelson, the tour agronomist, Mike Crawford, dear friend of mine,
Mike's a great guy,
gave us a high five on the best greens water management that he had seen. And, and we use the Aquatrols products as our core. But, we got 2-man teams out there, a guy with a moisture meter and a guy with a hose behind him. And we have figured out exactly how to measure up 1% and how to do canopy cooling. And our guys are phenomenal. But there's no doubt, you ask anybody on our water crew, the day that the revolution runs out, you really know it. Aquatrols products, they're just easy to use and very reliable. And, we were talking about success and mastering the fundamentals. Well, that's pretty key right there. If you can control the water, then you can control the quality and the outcome. If you lose control of the water, you're in risk for sure.
So you mentioned obviously the pandemic, and I think we've all learned lessons from that. What have been some of the things you've taken away?
My takeaway is before you start hacking, cutting, and doing all those things, understand where the true expectation is and educate.
Do you ever worry though that the efforts that you guys made with 3 or 4 people to manage what do you got 190 acres of maintained turf down there that you're your own worst enemy sometimes because you do deliver those kinds of results with a handful of people?
Well, there's some truth to that once you establish a new benchmark, well, that's a benchmark. And again, that's why the communication is so important.
Right.
I've been doing these daily reports that go all the way up the chain from ownership all the way down since March the 15th when the first closure happened.
Yep.
I do think that you can be your own worst enemy, especially if you don't show, even though it looks pretty good and it's kind of all right. Here's some other things though that aren't getting done. That it's like if you don't get your oil changed for 3 or 4 rotations in a row. Until your engine blows, you're probably still good. But you're thinking that you're just the smartest guy in the world until you have to replace an engine because you would save that money on those oil changes. So again, it's understanding short-term and long-term impacts And that requires a bit more craft to be able to show those things.
This whole thing has been a subterfuge because what I really wanted to do was to tap into your life coach skills and have you give me a few tips to manage my time better, because I stink at it sometimes. I really am a bad procrastinator, and I don't always focus. So what are your life coach tips for me and for anybody else watching about using your time better?
In terms of time management and how all that stuff goes, you need a system. So if you don't have a system, you're not setting your goals on paper and referring to them on a daily basis, then you can't really manage your time to be effective. You could write it down. Some people do vision boards and you get more complicated as you go up. But I like to kind of keep that just a little bit on the simple side. My aspiration to win the Triple Crown started with just doing better water conservation and basic green concepts that led me to Audubon, the GEO. And so if you looked at that in reverse, it looks like an incredibly masterminded thing. Mm-hmm. The truth, though, in my day-to-day time management, I had that list of the things I needed to do, small steps today, that would lead to great steps down the road.
What are your final thoughts here as we finish up our Turf Zoom?
I have been a professional martial artist for a very long time, and I've been in 1,000 fights or more, I don't remember. But one thing that I know is that when you compete in anything, you have to understand that it's a competition, but it's not life or death. But we are locked in some things that are life or death now. And being kind in your encounters will go a long way towards solving every problem. So we may not have all the ABCs of how to get exactly to where the future is going to be, but that's my thing, is be willing to serve, always say yes, and be kind to each other. And let's leave it better than we found it.
That's as good as it gets. I can't top that. Thank you so much for your time today and your willingness to join us here on Turf Zoom and for everything you've done over the years. So again, Anthony, thanks.
My pleasure, Pat. Oh, and the answer is always going to be yes. If you just call me if you need me.
I will, trust me. And to all of y'all, keep coming back because we'll have more turf Zooms for you soon. Stay tuned. Bye-bye.